What's up, and welcome back to the Kind of Funny Screencast. Of course, I'm Tim Geddes, and I'm joined by Saige Ryan from Smosh Games and Pixel Circus.
Oh, hi. It's good to see you.
Good to see you as well. You know who else it's good to see? No, go for it. Go for it.
I'm very excited to talk about this.
Yeah.
Literally, I barely slept. I was like, we have things to talk about.
We also got the one and only Anthony Carboni.
Oh my goodness. If only there was a way to get my two favorite Mandalorian-based shows together into one thing.
If only. And rounding out the crew, of course, we have the boss baby himself, Barrett Courtney.
They're so furry, Tim. They're so furry.
What are you referring to here?
The lady dating the Jawas.
Oh, got it. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I was totally blanking for a second. What the fuck are you talking about?
You might have been thinking about the show Boba Fett, the book of Boba Fett. We're talking about The Mandalorian.
Yeah, we're talking about the new episode of The Mandalorian today.
Hey,
and
everyone,
we are doing that.
If you are uncertain about The Mandalorian and you're looking to make an episode of, or you're uncertain about Boba Fett and you're looking to make an episode of Boba Fett that everybody loves, what you do is you make an episode of The Mandalorian.
And who would have ever seen that coming? Because, like, think about it. The Mandalorian gets announced, and everyone's like, why isn't it Boba Fett? Like, this is so stupid. Like,
everyone, including Jon Favreau.
Like, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And then here we are. And it's like, well, they totally gave Mandalorian Din the character that we all kind of expected Boba Fett to be like. And now here we are, 3 seasons into this world. And they're like, just definitive proof. People like Mandalorian better. Good for them, too. Good for me.
I love it.
Here's the thing, though, is like, obviously all of this was written and shot before there was any response to the Book of Boba Fett. So they anticipated that halfway through the series of Book of Boba Fett, we would be like, man, I do miss Mando, though.
Yeah. And they were right. We're going to get into all of that because this is the Kind of Funny Screencast where each and every week we get together to talk about the latest in TV, movie, and trailers. Of course, you can get it on youtube.com/kindafunny or roosterteeth.com. If you wanted to get it as a podcast, just search your favorite podcast service for Kind of Funny Screencast and we'll be right there for you. If you wanted to get the show ad-free and watch live as it's recorded, you got to go to patreon.com/kindafunny, just like our Patreon producers Molecule, at James Davis Makes, and Pranksy have done. If you want to be part of the show, you got to go to kindafunny.com/screencast to write in your questions, theories, and thoughts, and we'll get to those. Today we're brought to you by Purple Mattress and Babbel, but we'll talk about that later because there's so much to talk about here. I want to start. Everybody. This episode ruled. This episode just fucking rules. And it just gave me all the things I want. And sure, is it like quality storytelling and all this stuff? I don't give a fuck. This is fun-ass Star Wars, and I love nothing more than eras being mixed. And I cannot believe in a Boba Fett show, we just saw the Mandalorian go through the Boots of Eve Classic in an N1 Starfighter. What the fuck?
But Timothy J. Gettysburg, can I ask you something?
Please ask away, Carboni.
And I agree with everything that you're saying here. The fact that the Mando now rides a souped-up hot rod N1 is to the point where the engine block is sticking out of the hood, like Robert Rodriguez.
Some would say it's Wizard.
Yeah. It's Wizard.
Yeah,
a real one of my least favorite things
Naboo fighter.
That was the one thing that made my eye twitch is when he said Wizard. I was like, yeah, but
hey, it's Wizard, Annie.
Too far.
Here's what I'll say. Yes, it was great. We don't have a lot of time or episodes left in this season of what is ostensibly a Boba Fett show. And we did only get 5 seconds of any Boba Fett related continuity here with them just for some reason making Ming-Na Wen just jump up and down and do box jumps.
Yeah.
They were just like, show up to work and do box jumps today. So it's a great episode, but do you think this is what this show should be doing with its time right now? I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm asking the questions.
I mean, just to jump in real quick with that, I don't know that the answer is yes, but I do know that what they've been doing was not nearly as cool as this to me personally. And I think more than that, I've never been more interested in next week Like this show now has me after this episode where are they going with it? We got 2 episodes left. Last week, I thought we had an idea of where the show's going. I now have no idea where the show's going. Last week, I was like, I don't think we're going to get a season 2. That's totally out the window for me now. I don't know. Maybe we do, because there's no way they wrap up this shit in 2 episodes.
There's no way. I'm of the opinion that I love a crossover episode. I love a crossover episode of anything. I sat through 3 more seasons of Riverdale to get to that Sabrina crossover. I love a crossover.
We made it.
I also am of the opinion that this was not a crossover episode. This was just an episode of The Mandalorian.
It was a soft premiere of Mando season 3.
Right. There was nothing in 98% of this episode that affected Boba Fett at all. Any of the stories about Mandalore, about the Darksaber, about the actual Mandalorian order, literally do not matter to Boba Fett. So usually in a crossover episode, even if we're following this like other character, it would be all of these things that are like, oh, while this is happening, that's probably affecting him over here. While this is happening, that's probably affecting him over there. And it's not.
So you're absolutely right. But what I will say is that sure, in terms of plot and like what the characters are doing, it doesn't. But I really liked how this episode was entirely just the Mando condensed version about what the Boba Fett theme has been the entire time, which is, who are your people? What is your family? What does that actually mean? And so that's why I would argue it is actually a good crossover episode. I just think we would have a different opinion on it if there was 10 episodes in this season, as opposed to just 2 more to wrap up the story
I can agree
that
with
we
that.
already felt didn't get where it needed to go.
I'll say this. If you had not watched The Mandalorian, but you are, and I'm thinking of this from plotting, pacing, I'm also thinking of this from Disney and Lucasfilm and Star Wars managing an audience of literally 3 generations of people. If you did not watch The Mandalorian, but you are a fan of Boba Fett, so you've been watching the Boba Fett show, and that kind of brought you into this Disney Plus ecosystem, a recap of who the Mandalorian is and why he's interesting is definitely a good way to get those people to maybe go back and watch The Mandalorian. It also does set up and remind us of Din is a different Mando than Boba Fett is, and their ideals are going to come up against each other at some point, right? Like, their ideals will butt heads. We see, like, Din will still straight up murder a room full of people if things aren't going his way. There is no diplomacy. He has a 0 charisma. You know what I mean? Like, he does not do that. That's his dump stat. And like, so it is a good reminder maybe for people who weren't in that universe, but I gotta say at this point, it feels to me like there are more people who are into The Mandalorian than almost anything else in Star Wars. So it feels like maybe they didn't need that much of a recap.
Yeah. To go back to the point of like, was this good for this show, especially with 2 episodes left? I think it was a detriment to the story for Boba Fett, specifically for the 7-episode season. I do think it'll be, in the grand scheme of things, of like what Filoni and Favreau are trying to build towards, and what the kind of overall story that they're trying to tell in this era of Star Wars. I think it'll be a big help. I think, if we had spent this time with, the first episode of Mando season 3, I would have been, wondering of like, okay, like how did we get from, being on the same ship with Bo-Katan to being somewhere else, still with the Darksaber, et cetera, so on and so forth. And the fact that they like kind of instead took an episode in another show to kind of be like, all right, he's here now, and then we'll explain it hopefully in like the first episode. Like, I feel like it gave me enough where it's like, I think season 3 will have a better kind of like starting point than if we didn't get anything at all from Mando from the season of Book of Boba Fett. So
yeah,
I mean, it'll be interesting.
I totally agree with that, Barrett. And we talked about this during our Mandalorian season 2 finale conversation, but like, it ends in such a way where the core of that show was taken away, which is Baby Yoda's connection with Din. So it's like them being apart from each other. It's like, where's the Mandalorian go from here? It kind of feels like it could be anywhere, because it just doesn't really, like, there's not really any open storylines. And like, sure, okay, the Darksaber, Mandalore, all that stuff is like the obvious thing, but like, that's a brand new story kind of that they're going to need to tell to the general audiences, right? But this episode alone kind of gave me so much more like direction of where they're going, where like, he's going back to Grogu. Like, I didn't expect them to be going back to Grogu this quickly. I didn't expect. What's he building for? What did he make him? Is it a
The heart
lightsaber?
wants what it
Is it a
wants,
small
Tim.
little lightsaber thing? Oh my god! I
But it
just
is
love
shaped
this
like
idea.
his little head. The little cloth is just
that was
shaped like a
great.
tiny Grogu head. Yeah.
I love
so
that,
good.
and I love that the scene of seeing Mando fight with the Darksaber. It's like this whole episode is fan service, like to the utmost max. And the idea that he isn't good because he's not a Force user and all this shit, and he's about to go to Grogu. Is Luke fucking Skywalker about to teach him the ways of the Force, bro? Come on,
not.
man.
Please
Absolutely
Come
not.
Don't give us no.
on,
We've had enough of
man.
CG Luke.
Yeah.
We've had enough
Absolutely
of
not.
CG Luke. I loved that moment. I loved the CG Luke moment. I can't have him in a scene for more than like 86 seconds though.
Yeah,
That CG will absolutely
it's a
end
lot.
me.
And they would if Luke would become his trainer, not even in ways of Force, but like just lightsaber using. I think it would be very uncomfortable, uncanny valley for way too long with CG
Just
Luke.
his
So-
face.
There are some I do want to say there are some interesting things and interesting implications that are brought up here for all of Star Wars. It was so weird to see the carpet bombing of Sundari in live action, and it just looks like a Terminator movie, like the Siege of Mandalore.
The K2SO droids, like
Yeah, those K2
was
droids, and
wild.
just it looked like Judgment Day. It was
Mhm.
nuts. Also, the idea of we're getting more rules for the Darksaber because these rules were not really enumerated in the Clone Wars and in Rebels. Like in Rebels, Sabine hands Bo-Katan the Darksaber. She gives her the Darksaber.
We
It's
were
like, this
we
belongs
were
to you.
so close to getting a mention of Sabine Wren this episode.
Hey,
Like,
she's in the Ahsoka series.
I
so
know,
we're good.
I know.
She's
We're
coming.
just so I'm just getting so impatient. I just want to see my good crew from Rebels. You
I know, same. But like the idea of, hey, now we're coming up with a rule for why you can't just hand Bo-Katan the Darksaber. We now know. And like the touching back, like the fan service wasn't just surface level fan service. There was some like actual stuff about the lore. Like if you hadn't watched the animated stuff, this intro of the idea of Tar Vizsla and Pre Vizsla, who by the way, Pre Vizsla was of course in the animated series played by Jon Favreau, was how Jon Favreau kind of started talking to everybody at Lucasfilm.
awesome.
And that is the beginning of how all this happened is Jon Favreau was Pre Vizsla. So the idea of Clan Vizsla coming back and like staking their claim.
So
and
cool.
there's a lot of interesting stuff that was going on there that has, we talked last week about how this is ultimately going to be the story. Like we think of 3 different Mandalorians and what it means to be a Mandalorian. This definitely connects. It's more of this show being connective tissue, which we talked about. There's more connective tissue than actual story of Boba Fett here.
I agree.
I also want to talk about how, with all the importance of the Darksaber, my dude put it in his checked luggage.
Yo, what was that? What the fuck was that, man? That feels like a bad choice.
And it went nowhere. Like plot-wise, it went nowhere.
No,
there was no reason for it.
I appreciated it because it led to, because he doesn't have a ship, he's had to rely on public transit and, being around people with all these weapons and like kind of having to be in a public place while traveling is a very uncomfortable thing for him. And I personally liked that, where it was like this tenseness of like, you motherfuckers better, like nobody better steal this and stuff like that. And ultimately, while it doesn't lead anywhere, it still gives him the important kick of like, I need my own fucking ship because I can't keep living like this kind of thing. I personally liked it.
I do understand that. I just think if it wasn't over so quickly, it would have paid off a little better for me. I don't think we got to see a lot of that tension. It was like, I don't want to set these down, but I will. Close the case. And then we were just kind of there and it was over. There was not a moment in between there where I got to go, somebody's going to steal it. Once that case was closed, we were there and it was fine. I wanted a moment of like, ooh, he's not going to get it back, or he's going to get attacked while he doesn't have the things that he needs. He's going to have to, we're going to get some cool hand-to-hand combat of the Mando.
We're just gonna wave at this cute alien man.
Yeah,
just a
you and I
quick
were
wave.
talking about this a little earlier, before the morning show this morning, where we kept thinking that okay, and now it intersects with Boba Fett. Okay, and now it becomes a Boba Fett.
The whole episode.
And one of the things that we thought was like, okay, he checks his weapons because he has to. and then something happens where either he loses them, somebody takes them, he's without his weapons, and sort of he and Boba Fett and Fennec are sort of tied up in this thing where, okay, I'll work with you if we get if you get my weapons back because I helped you get your armor back. You know what I mean? There was a thing
help me
where
get the Darksaber back. Yeah, that would have been so sick.
Hey, man, I gave the Darksaber to a DJ droid. and just Boba Fett's reaction to that would have been amazing, Yeah. You could tell that was sort of maybe something that they toyed with. The other thing is, hey, man, an old man and a moisture farmer were able to find shady transport to and from Tatooine. Like, you're telling me Din Djarin, who has connections throughout the entire criminal bounty hunter world,
had to take the bus.
Has to take the fucking bus to Tatooine? Come on,
maybe
man.
he didn't know anybody on the Halo ring, okay? Like, it was his first time on the Halo ring. Are we not going to talk about the Halo ring? Because that was the weirdest fucking thing.
I want to talk about that so bad. I mean, everything that we've been seeing lately from Star Wars has been these desolate desert planets. I mean, we spend so much time on Tatooine, which is obviously also the most cost-effective way to show a Star Wars planet is a desert. But like to see a developed city planet again is just like, ooh. That felt like that was honestly one of my favorite things of this episode is seeing that and being like, "Ooh, I want a story here."
Yeah. And it was the best looking episode we've gotten so far because not just because it's not the same type of location over and over, but because they really did some cool stuff that I haven't really seen before in live action stuff. Like the shots where you see stars in space like right near them, as like even when the scene of Mando going down the elevator. Yeah. And then getting out, like the way the camera would always be a little bit lower to show you that right underneath them is space. Like that shit was really, really, really rad.
Bryce Dallas Howard knows how to direct.
Thank you.
Hell yeah.
I was going to say, can we please give Bryce Dallas Howard her fucking due? Because what we mostly heard about Bryce Dallas Howard was during the first season of The Mandalorian. She, of course, was, listen, you're assigned your episode that you're going to direct. She was given the episode that happened to be Seven Samurai. And everybody was like, seen it. This is a ripoff. They even did a Clone Wars that was like this. And everybody was bagging on Bryce Dallas Howard. That was a cool looking, well-directed episode. She is very good at directing Star Wars stuff. She's done multiple episodes this season, and they have been my favorite looking and feeling episodes. I got to say, I put her directing style with Star Wars above Robert Rodriguez.
Oh, Robert Rodriguez at this point is like probably my bottom tier. I think that like this episode is proof of that. Where I knew I didn't like the Robert Rodriguez stuff, but see this, I'm like, oh, I could love this stuff. So, what other episodes did Bryce do this season?
She did the last one, the one where they were infiltrating and getting the fire spray gunship back.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So she's done all the ones that feel like very Star Wars. And she's doing a lot of the ones that Favreau's writing. He's kind of taken her on as like his preferred director, it seems like, at least for this series. I would not be surprised if they are not just auditioning her to be a showrunner on one of these series that's coming up.
Oh. That'd be dope. So before we keep going, though, let me tell you about our sponsors.
There are a ton of worthwhile goals to set for yourself this year, and personally, learning a new language with Babbel is at the top of my list. Babbel is the addictively fun, fast, and easy language learning app that has sold more than 10 million subscriptions. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Greg, and as you know, I'm in love with a French Canadian named Geneviève Saint-Onge. And Jen, of course, first language is French. She learned English later on, and I've been trying to learn French, but I keep falling off. I've got Babbel on my phone. I'm ready to do it in 2022. Other language learning apps use AI for their lesson plans, but Babbel lessons were created by over 100 language experts. Their teaching method has been scientifically proven to be effective. You can choose from 14 different languages like Spanish, French, Italian, and German. Plus, Babbel's speech recognition technology helps you improve your pronunciation and accent. I could probably use that for English. Right now, when you purchase a 3-month Babbel subscription, you'll get an additional 3 months for free. That's 6 months for the price of 3. Just go to Babbel.com and use the promo code KindaFunny, all one word. That's BABBEL.com, code KindaFunny. Babbel, language for life. When it comes to getting a good night's sleep, there's only one thing you need: a good mattress. Forget all those gimmicks like mattress toppers and weighted blankets. If your mattress is terrible, your sleep is going to be terrible. So get the only thing you truly need, a Purple mattress. Only Purple mattresses have the Gel Flex Grid. It's a super stretchy, ultra squishy material that adapts and flexes around pressure points and doesn't retain heat. How do I know? Well, I talked to a young man named Timothy Geddes, and Timothy swears by the Purple pillow. Then, on top of that, he used to have a roommate named Joey Noel who swore by her Purple mattress. That's right. Kind of funny sleeping all over this Purple stuff and loving every minute of it. Getting a great night's sleep starts with having a great mattress. Get a Purple mattress. Go to purple.com/kindafunny and use the code kindafunny. For a limited time, you can get 10% off any order of $200 or more. That's purple.com/kindafunny, code kindafunny for 10% off any order of $200 or more. That's purple.com/kindafunny, promo code kindafunny. Terms apply.
All right.
Really quick, just quick correction. Last week was directed by Kevin Tancho. I'm gonna fuck up this last name, but it wasn't
Tancha Rowan.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tancheron. Sorry, which ones has she done? Because she's done a couple.
This is the only episode she's directed so far.
Really? I thought she did last week's. Okay. Well, then I like Kevin Tancheron and I like her.
Yes.
So
They're-
far.
I will say things that I didn't love about this episode. Amy Sedaris continues to not be my cup of tea. And I feel like she gave the best performance, and I liked her the most this episode, with the exception of her getting dragged by the beast. It was like, what are we fucking doing here? We don't need this.
It was very
type of
reminiscent
stuff.
to, what was it, last week with Boba
Last
Fett?
week with him chasing him like, oh, where are you? Like, no, I don't
her.
like that stuff. I don't like that. But I think she did better in this episode.
Kalimata.
I love her.
The other thing is the animation of the Darksaber just simply doesn't look good. It doesn't look
retracting.
cool.
It's the retracting
and,
way.
and, like that's the only part. It in action, dope as fuck.
Yeah.
In action, so cool.
Nobody looks cool pulling it out, and that's unfortunate because it's cool as shit.
Yeah.
It does this weird thing where, like, because it is sort of like knife or scimitar shaped, and it's got that hard bottom edge that leads into the curve.
And it's like very thin.
Yeah, the curve does this, the hard edge does this thing where it like just grows out. Like I was looking at that animation and I was like, what's bugging me? You know, and a lightsaber gets to just pop straight out. So they don't have to worry about its unfolding in space. Yeah. The Darksaber has dimensions that have to like unfold, and it does look a little strange. I will say that once that animation is done, I love what it looks like when somebody's wielding it and swinging it around.
Right.
The
Yeah,
fight
agreed.
between Din and Vizsla, Paz Vizsla, was really good. And I love that Paz has a vibro blade. He's got that dollar store lightsaber.
Yeah, that was cool.
You know?
That shit was
And
incredible.
just immediately like a butt done.
Yeah, that whole fight, that whole sequence, I thought it was like top tier Mandalorian content. Like I loved it. I thought it was well choreographed. And again, like you were saying, Carboni, like there's so much lore stuff being brought up and like the reasons for why they're fighting and what they're doing. Him coming in being like, I don't fucking trust this guy. Give me that shit. And then the Armorer, which is the dopest name in Star Wars, being like, did you take your helmet off? You motherfucker, you ain't one of us. Like all that was so well done.
What's so interesting about this, and it is that theme of like, who are your people? What are you going to do now? And there's been that throughout a little bit of The Mandalorian, of Din trying to be like, I don't want to be with anybody, and people being like, you sure, man? You sure you don't want to maybe make some friends? This moment of like, well, you can't be a Mandalorian anymore. And he's like, well, what do I do? And they're like, nothing. And there's no consequence. They do not then challenge him for the Darksaber.
Right.
The Armorer does not try to take the Darksaber because, hey, that's claim to Mandalore. You're not a Mandalorian, but you can hold on to the blade that gives you claim to Mandalore. Okay, interesting. That seems important. And also, they do not take his armor. So he still gets to run around in Mandalorian armor, which is canonically not something that's supposed to happen if you are not a Mandalorian. We've seen Boba Fett get shit for it, you know?
It's weird. It's weird that the Armorer would not make him surrender that armor. And I think we're supposed to believe, I was thinking about this a little bit. In the show, it seems bad, and especially because we don't get any hint of what I'm thinking. But what I'm thinking is the Armorer expects him to go back to Mandalore and find his way into those mines. And I think it's part of his story. And I think she sort of knows that's a test for him.
Yeah, and it's like kind of pushing him to do something like that.
But the problem is they don't really give much of a hint of that. That's just that becomes something where they're forcing the audience to think it as wishful thinking instead of giving us a sign that that's actually happening.
I don't know. I feel like they've done a good job with the armorer throughout the Mandalorian show as well, of building up to be that type of character. Where it's like, she is going to follow her own code, but she also understands that she's kind of questioning it based on the things that are going on. So this guy's pushing and she wants to support that. But I think they did a good enough job of like setting up where they're at because of the armor.
She does bend the rules to make a little Grogu armor. I think
Yeah.
he's getting a little chainmail. It looked like there were chainmail links there.
Yeah.
I also like the idea that you can't make a weapon out of Beskar. It can only be used to protect, not attack. I thought that was cool. I forget if we've had that brought up before, but I think it's very interesting.
But like, she also made his like little wrist weapons things out of.
That's a bird name.
Yeah, I forget what it's called.
Yeah, like the sparrows or something.
Yeah,
Something
but
like
those
maybe
were
it
made
was
out
just
of Beskar.
maybe it was the sparrow launcher in the armor isn't made out, or the sparrow launcher and the
Ammo.
The ammo isn't made out of. Who
Yeah,
knows?
my
But
thing
the spear's
with
a weapon.
Well, that's why she had to
That
melt
was
it down.
yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
Because
got
remember,
it.
that was not a Mando spear. That was the governor
Yes,
of whatever
you're
that
right, you're
village
right.
had.
They had forged that into a weapon.
Yeah, because
I
they
love
wanted
video game
they wanted to
this
be
shit is
Mando
that.
killers.
My thing with the Darksaber is like after he admitted that he had broke the code, is that he had already just proven that like he just technically won it in combat, right? Where she had stopped, she was like, all right, like you've won this. I feel like that was like the one thing where they didn't stop him from leaving with it, because they're like, all right, well, we didn't technically really earn it either, so because it was already with him, we'll let him have it for now. Maybe one day we'll try to go 1-to-1 again and earn it
And maybe
back.
there's something where the armorer is not allowed to fight or something because of her position. Like we don't know what all of the
possible.
rules of that are.
Yeah.
I think the armorer also probably knows that historically you don't give the fucking Darksaber to a Vizsla. I don't know.
Especially with like her like knowing the history with Bo-Katan and Bo-Katan's kind of expectations of running Mandalore, because her older sister was once the ruler of Mandalore, and like how that whole family kind of like went against the ways that she upholds.
Bunch of Kenobi smoochers. Those
I
ones.
know. And so
Hey.
yeah, I'm
I think, wouldn't you all be a Kenobi smoocher if you could?
That's what-
100%.
There's a reason that was the golden age of Mandalore. Because there were Kenobi smoochers, and
Yeah.
they knew.
Yeah, exactly. And so yeah, I imagine she's also like, I trust this Vizsla enough to like hang out with me. I don't know if I trust him enough to be wielding this Darksaber though.
Don't give him power.
Yeah.
Don't give him power.
Yeah.
I do love seeing an N1 Starfighter.
It's
That was
insane.
so wonderful. I have so many questions about it logistically of like, okay, if you're on a bounty, you have a 1-passenger ship now. Okay, this seems complicated.
Look,
But-
there was the little
Is there a
thingy
little
for Grogu.
backseat? Yes, that's true. Okay, so you can fit someone approximately this big.
You can
Okay.
fit one boy in little boy armor.
There's room for one little guy in little guy armor. But God, the ship was so lovely to see. That's another piece of the fan service that I really enjoyed for this one.
and
And it's going to be a ship going forward.
I
like
know.
that's the coolest thing, man.
For how
Like,
long though?
I think they stick with it. Like I think that if it was yellow, I think it would be like, okay, this is just a temporary thing.
Yeah.
They mandoed this
they
thing up.
mandoed
And
it.
Sure,
I agree.
maybe it's just a season to sell a Lego set. But like I think it's going to be his ship, and that is so fucking cool.
Yeah.
I think it's a ship for a while, but I think Saige is right. Eventually, you've got to take a bounty back alive somewhere.
Mm.
And there's not even a trunk to stuff him
They
in.
hold on to
in
the
an
wing.
N1.
Yeah, but he got out of the bounty hunt. The bounty hunting storyline was handled in the first 10 minutes of this episode. And now he's back to the Grogu stuff.
By the way, let's talk about these bulldog butchers. And,
Dude,
oh my
that was so
goodness.
cool.
That was
Again,
such a
like
cool
Stage was
opening
talking about like
sequence.
different types of locales and stuff. Like seeing this like dead carcass of aliens like butcher shop was kind of a neat thing.
Do you want to know? And this is why I love all the Goonie stuff that y'all don't love. But the first thing I thought of is, I just want to see them. I want to see more of them playing poker. I want to see the dogs
Yeah.
playing poker. That's funny.
Dogs play poker.
I want to see the space dogs play space poker.
Yeah.
I want to see them play Stabak more, and I want to see a painting of that somewhere later.
Yes.
Boba Fett's
In a
palace.
very slow chase scene.
Oh,
I think the thing I loved about that planet so much is like, look, I love Tatooine. I don't really want to hang out on Tatooine.
Yeah.
Like, this is the Star Wars stuff that I'm like, oh, I want to go there and I want to walk around in it. I want it in VR. I just want to be there. I want to see all the stuff. I want to go into little shops and restaurants. I don't know. I want a vacation.
Quick moment of like the people that were clearly on their way to the club in their fancy club clothes. And I was just like, they've shown this a couple times, particularly in The Mandalorian, where he's in a city and they show people like wearing like future party clothes. And I'm just like, yeah, let's show me more of this.
Space party.
Show me the space party, baby.
I'll meet you all at the future party. Let's go.
Oh, God, that's all I want.
Oh, man.
So last week, the episode ended with the little sting of the Mando theme. So we knew he was coming. Like I said earlier, I didn't expect him to get a whole episode. I thought it was just going to be like a quick, hey, here you are. You joining me or not? Cool, whatever. But when this episode fucking starts and we get the theme song of Boba Fett mixed with the theme song of Mandalorian, I lost my shit, and it says the return of the Mandalorian, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, I didn't know it was possible for me to be this excited about the Mandalorian. Like, they did a great job making a new character and making us fall in love with him, and like, I can't believe it, because going into the episode, I was the most excited going into an episode I've been for Boba Fett, and now I'm leaving even more excited than that going into the next one. So I think with all of that, they did something cool.
They nailed it. I even liked. I was really excited that the Rangers of the New Republic popped up.
Yeah, that was great.
You know, obviously
Fun
their
cameo.
series. Yeah.
Do you know who the guy on the right was?
Who was it?
The guy on the right was the Luke Skywalker body double
Oh,
from
that's so fun.
the season 2 finale.
I love that. Yeah, he doesn't get to fly around with Dave Filoni anymore because Dave Filoni's got other stuff to do. But like, but I love the idea that they're bringing these guys back. You know, obviously we were supposed to see a Rangers TV series that didn't work. Certain people are bonkers and have bad thoughts, and they put them on the internet, and now we don't get that show. But that's fine, because I think that seeing these guys in The Mandalorian sort of showing, hey, what is the Republic about? And how do we get to sort of where the small space that they take up in the galaxy in the sequels, right? Like, they were supposed to take everything back. This was supposed to be like, everything's going to be okay. And we're seeing these like traffic cops, basically, where one of them's figuring out that something's going on. And I love that. I also love that there was a BD droid.
I know.
Hold on.
BD. Sorry.
No, just real quick before we move on from that scene, Carboni, can I ask you though, visually on screen, what was happening when we get the Rangers of the New Republic? What are we seeing?
What are we seeing?
Describe what we're seeing on the screen to me during that scene.
Describe the space traffic stop.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the Naboo Starfighter.
Mm-hmm.
Flanked by 2 X-Wings.
That's the coolest fucking thing you've ever said. Are you kidding me? I love it when we mix eras, man. That was so great.
It was good. It was cool to see. And it does show something of like seeing them together really hammers home this sort of like fall of Rome thing that's supposed to be happening throughout Star Wars. Moments like that really drive it home, where it's like 30 years ago, we had this. And then we let shit get really fucked.
Yeah.
And now everything looks like it's from a junkyard.
Okay, so back to BD, Saige.
Yeah. BD units are some of my favorite droids in the entire Star Wars universe. Fallen Order's BD-1 is just an absolute icon in robot form.
Yep.
And I really thought at that first like kind of walk by, I was like, BD, and I thought that was all we were gonna get, and then we got the full little like scan moment.
Yeah.
It felt like a gift to me personally. I loved it so much. I loved that so much.
I almost had a heart attack where I was like, because we haven't seen much of BDs, if not at all, outside of Fallen Order. So I was like, oh shit.
Oh my god.
Oh shit.
Cal Kestis.
But then like when he does the scan, I'm able to look at it. I was like,
you're like, that ain't him.
The colorization is off and stuff like that. And then it gets taken.
It's one of the DLC skins. They did the pre-order. They did the pre-order. Kalimano did a pre-order.
Where's the poncho though?
I mean, the only good skins for BD are the original one and the one where he's all red. Anyways,
it's not really a DLC skin. I'm just goofing. But I do. The thing that popped into my head about that was, okay, so do we get a BD toy now? Because that was the
Yes,
thing that we didn't get.
please.
I was
I
was
believe
like,
we
where
didn't.
was my pre-order of Fallen Order that came with a BD? You know they were
really missed
talking
the
about it.
market. Yeah.
It must have been on the table. Why don't I have a BD?
I
There's a
also
place on my
I
shelf.
don't know if he actually did it in the show, but I loved it in the the credits art where he was on the shoulder, on her shoulder, just because
Yes.
that's I just need to see more of that droid just kind of being on people and just being like a little pet, you know.
Ugh.
So one line that I heard, and I'm like, huh. They're like, they said something, and they're like, sadly, it only exists in legends. And I was like, that seems very on the nose and very meta for Star Wars in a way they don't normally do.
What only exists in Legends?
I didn't write down what they said before it,
okay.
but they said something, and they're like, but sadly, that only exists in Legends. And I'm like, that is a
And then
very
they-
tongue-in-cheek
and then
way.
they
I
looked
just
at the
don't know if
camera
that-
and they
yeah,
pointed.
totally. So I thought it was fun. I need to go back. I'm going to rewatch it today, and I want to see what they actually were talking about. But I thought that was fun.
I do want to say one personal thing, and I'm not sure. I have to text and find out. But I think that R4 that went by Din when he was on the space bus, I think that might have been my R4 that was built for science in Star Wars.
Holy shit.
I think that might have been my droid, and I'm gonna.
You have to find out and confirm
yeah.
next episode, because that is so damn cool.
Because Rogue One had our chopper, the chopper that we had for the Star Wars show, appeared. That was the live action chopper in Rogue One. So they share those droids out for everything. So I think that was my droid, y'all. I think that was my droid.
Congratulations.
There was
Thank
one
you.
more thing I wanted to bring up. And I forget what it was. Oh, I guess just for the ending of the episode, right, where we get Fennec coming to recruit muscle for Boba Fett and stuff like that. I would say, kind of going back to the beginning of the conversation, right, of like, we only have 2 episodes left. Where else are we going with this? That is still my one worry here, and like, yeah, maybe we get a season 2 and we'll get more of like a, building up of like what's going on in Boba Fett's world and other people he has to face off against. But I'm still left in these last 2 episodes being like, all right, cool, Mando's recruited. I love that. I love the the chemistry between him, Fennec, and Boba, between the 3 of them.
Theory,
That we
we saw it in The Mandalorian here, but
exactly. And so
the best Boba Fett episode was in The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, but I'm still left with like I don't give a fuck who they're about to go to war with, like I don't care of like the antagonist side of this show. And it makes it harder for me to be like, all right, yeah, like go do the things that you need to do. But
The line from Pelimato is one of the clearest reminders, or even one of the only times we hear somebody
mention the Pikes.
Mention the Pikes.
Yeah.
Somebody from one of these cities mentioned the Pikes and being like, things have gotten bad since they've started running spice through here.
Yeah.
Other than, retaliation against the Tuskens, we haven't really seen or heard much about how bad the Pikes are. And that retaliation was, of course, off screen. So it's that thing that we're talking about. We're like, yeah, we have enough evidence and people have said enough things for us to be really worried about the Pikes.
I believe they're very bad.
Yeah, we just haven't. There's no feeling of oncoming dread from them.
It doesn't feel like a war. It feels like a minor inconvenience.
I think that it has the potential to be. We just haven't had the time to see it. And I think that's what makes me so frustrated with this episode. It's a great episode of The Mandalorian. I'm disappointed that it took one less episode. It gave me one less episode to really care about this end game that's about to happen. I want to be developing the villains. I want to be developing the war and the fighters. And this, like, I love a moment in a movie, in a show of, okay, we got to get the band together. I love to Oceans it. I love to watch them go and collect the muscle that they need for it.
Yeah.
And I was hoping that that would be this episode of like, we got to go here and get this guy. I've heard about this. Maybe there would be fun things where you're like, oh, I recognize that from this series or a mention here. Maybe it would be a fun cameo.
Maybe there'd be
moment.
a Cad Bane. Who knows?
Right. Maybe there would be a Cad Bane.
You know what?
I just want it to be that, like, let's get the band together.
I want it for you. Yeah, let's get, like you're saying, let's get the band together. I think number one, I'm unsure of who the band is. So I don't
Uh-huh.
know, that's a problem.
I feel like this is
you know,
it.
like
I
you're
think
saying.
I think it's a trio band. I think we're in a Blink 182 situation. It's just the three
And
of them.
then, yeah.
A
And-
I
classic
wanted a
Blink
whole-
182
I
situation.
wanted a whole thing. I wanted a
But-
whole
yeah.
It's
band.
not a 5-piece, unfortunately. It's just a 3-piece.
Yeah, who's the band? And then number 2, who are they going up against? We had in Mando, we had Moff Gideon. We had this
Mhm.
person who was a sinister figurehead, and we understood, and we had Giancarlo. And by the way, put a pin in how easily Giancarlo wielded that Darksaber when Din is having a problem with it. But
Mhm.
do you think, and this is a very Star Wars question, do you think we don't know who the bad guy is because they want it to be a reveal and they're hurting the dramatic tension of these episodes because Star Wars loves a big reveal? And I'm
So-
telling you, there's a 48% chance of Maul at the end of this season.
Okay, you
48
shake your head no. Is that a no, I don't think it's going to happen, or a no, I don't want it to happen?
Both. I feel like Maul's story ended the way it should have in Rebels. I
Mhm.
don't know if, a certain man would have I think a certain man would have made sure that Maul was fucking dead,
I don't know.
after-
Sometimes he come back as a Spidey.
Yeah, but how many
That would be the
times
most
do you-
jump in the shark shit ever.
Yeah, like,
more
They've
than it was the first
I mean,
time.
they drudged up some stuff, obviously, with Solo, so I'm just...
Yeah, I mean, that didn't go anywhere, and it has to at
Yeah,
some
but
point.
It
also
has to at some
But
point.
But
that was before all of this.
Yeah, that was
Right.
Solo was before Rebels took place.
Is
so
it
that's
is old lady Kira? Who is this? I think
I would
there is
rather
a
have
bad
Kira,
guy.
for
Yeah.
sure.
I think there is a bad guy that we know, that we recognize,
I
that
want
is
it to be
going to
Kira.
pop up.
Yeah.
But so here's the thing. Like, I feel like, and I was saying this earlier, that like this episode kind of threw off all my thoughts of where we're going. Like, I am, with the way this episode ends, I'm not convinced that Mando joins them in the next episode or two. Like, I don't think the trio getting together necessarily is this season.
I'm
in
wrong.
Book of
It's
Boba
a quartet because we also have Black Chrysanthemum.
That's
That's
true.
You're right.
Yeah.
You
I
are
think
right.
he goes away. I think he goes away next episode. We don't see what he does.
I think he
Because
arrives at
that's
the end
going
of
to
next
be-
episode.
Yeah,
Right.
I think that's going to be the first episode of the new season of Mando, is him going to visit Grogu, doing whatever he does.
Yeah.
And then he comes back for the season finale,
Which is the war or whatever. I could buy that. That sounds so
Which is the
fast,
fish war.
though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I feel like with where we're at right now, I would prefer if they just take the next 2 episodes to build up what this is, maybe reveal Akira in the end, and then
I love that.
go back to what I was saying of Mandalorian season 3 kind of being a mix of both storylines, where
Yeah.
we see Mando dealing with the whatever he's doing with Grogu. Like, he's bringing him armor, but I'm still convinced he's going to learn some training. Like, the armor said the line talking about the Jedi having attachments and all that stuff and why he can't fight with the saber. He's going to learn some fucking Force shit, man. But I think that all happening can be like one plot of season 3, then the other plot being him teaming up with Boba for this war. So we get a little bit more fleshed out villains that we actually care about by the time that's happening. And then season 4 of Mandalorian can actually really get into the Mandalore stuff.
What's the
Interesting.
period on the end of this sentence then? How does this, what is this,
Yeah.
what is this season? What is this
Like,
series?
is this
working
turning
towards?
into like an Iron Man 2 Age of Ultron situation where it's just like they're setting so many like little things up for later stuff at the detriment of its own season, right?
I think that's what Book of Boba Fett was always destined to be.
That's
like, this
unfortunate.
always felt like a season 2.5. You know what I mean? Like, even just like the way that they announced this show. Like, this show's announcement was a post-credit stinger for season 2. Like, that's unheard of for this type of thing. A show being
Yeah.
announced that way. Like, we had so many questions. Like, is this Mandalorian season 3? Like, it was so vague on what exactly this is. And now that we're getting it, yeah, it does kind of seem like even more like you don't need to watch it, but you should.
I mean, here's the thing, though. There's going to be also something very interesting for the people who didn't watch the Book of Boba Fett, that, like, the Mandalorian just got, essentially exiled in the Book of Boba Fett. So things are going to be a tad different if you're only a Mandalorian fan. That did make this, at least this episode, kind of a crucial watch for Mando's story.
They're taking a
Yeah.
page from the Marvel stuff, which is kind of like, hey, this can cross over a little bit. You know, just
Mhm.
because we're saying this is X, Y, and Z series about X, Y, and Z people, that doesn't mean fun things can't happen from other series and we're not going to cross pollinate. But they're not all like none of the Marvel stuff exists just to be cross pollination. Do you know what I
Yes.
mean? Whereas this feels a little bit like, let's just check in with your favorite people right now, see what they're doing. And it's like, nah, I want more than that. I want this to have a definitive thing that it's trying to say.
I hope that the final episode is Kira as well. That's my greatest hope for this show, that I think would make a lot of the complaints that we've had up to this point just worth it. I think that that would be the thing that, like, okay, we worked towards something big here. We worked towards something that I understand why you were hiding. And that's a much bigger war than the Pikes. And that's why we haven't developed the Pikes very much, because they are under the control of something larger.
It's
Yeah.
going to be a big reveal. I don't know that it's going to be Kira, but I think there's going to be a
It's
character
gotta
that we
be.
recognize, whether it's somebody we've seen on screen or somebody we know from Legends continuity or something like that.
Mhm.
Somebody who we know is going to be at the head of these syndicates.
But
And
whoever it is, if the reveal doesn't happen until the finale, like that's 50 minutes or less to deal with who they are, why they're relevant, what's going on, the actual battle itself, like all that stuff. Oh man, I am not like, do we know who's directing the last episode? Because I hope it's not Robert Rodriguez.
I don't know.
I don't
Let me
know.
see.
I don't know if they announced those in advance.
Yeah.
It might be. I mean, Favreau tends to end them himself if he can.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because I remember seeing that Filoni was writing one of them, but I don't
Yeah.
remember which one it was.
Let's find out together as a family. Who can IMDb the fastest?
the last thing or the other thing that when it comes to like a big bad, and like I feel like at this point with only 2 episodes left, the best case scenario at this point is that the big bad is revealed halfway through this next episode, and I'm still
Robert Rodriguez. Robert Rodriguez is directing the finale.
Okay.
Yeah.
According
And-
to IMDb, that could be their placeholder just because
Right.
he's showrunner director. But no,
Right.
actually, Chapter 6 does not have a director listed, so I
Oh.
think Rodriguez is doing the finale.
Okay.
Filoni is co-writing. John Favreau wrote all of them. Filoni's co-writing the 6th episode. So next
Okay.
week's.
Okay.
So knowing that, what do you guys think?
That could be the intro of a character that we know in the past. Filoni is the encyclopedia.
He's that guy.
He is the keeper of the lore.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is starting to get interesting now.
Ooh, this is where the
Shit.
fun begins? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
This is where the fun begins, everybody. Let us know in the comments below what type of fun you want to have next week. And then join us next week when we do this all over again. I can't wait for that. This show, it's got me going. It's got me thinking. It's got me hyped. Until next time, Saige, Anthony, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Until next time, I love you all. Goodbye.